So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Welcome to the monthly webinar for the local governments and municipal authorities constituency, prepared and presented and moderated by ICLE, Local Governments of Sustainability, as the LGMA focal point. My name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy, and I'm the focal point of the LGMA constituency. I will try to lead the session today, and we are just expecting colleagues to settle down. Then we will kick off. Meanwhile, we will be using this couple of minutes for some housekeeping. These sessions are recorded and then available on ICLE's YouTube channel together with the presentation link as well. We recommend the participants to follow us through the entirety of the presentation, because then it could be easy for you to respond. And in cases where we have guests, there are also moments where we also share the presentation today. And we have these webinars twice a day, every month, and twice in the sense that for Eastern and Western Hemisphere, in order to accommodate the time zone differences. For this morning session, I know we will have our colleagues, Ula Kasperek from On the Two Coalition. She usually is addressing our sessions in the afternoon because she is personally based in the Pacific Coast, but today she's on a mission to South Korea. I think she will be connecting from Seoul. So we particularly recommended or invited her to share us the updates on our position paper towards COP20 or key basic positions towards COP29. We are also delighted that we will be joining in this morning session our colleague Asif Nawaz from COP28 presidency. He will share particularly preparations for the CHAMP, which is already in our agenda included now today. Asif, thanks for joining us. Just a clarification question. Do you have any time pressure for your today's presence with us? Any hard line to leave?
No, I can stay until the end of the session.
So we will come to the CHAMP around 20 minutes, if it is okay for you. So we will go through the regular agenda as usual. Yeah. So anytime you can put your questions in the chat box, and my colleagues Kata will help us to run through this Q&A sessions as well. And we are also flexible. Those who would like to share more updates can also share by raising your hand, so that you can also verbally present your inputs or questions. Thanks once again, Len. So let's kick off. So we usually go through a basic background. We have usually colleagues who are familiar with our process. We're a community and a family, but we also have new colleagues. So just very basic information. So we then go to what has been achieved since Dubai, especially the last month. We have monthly webinars so that we do not repeat all since the beginning, but we have already a calendar. But we would like to particularly highlight what has happened since the last webinar, which was April, and then focus on our agendas, especially this time SP60, UN Bonn Climate Conference, and daring cities. That will be our target, and that's the moment where particularly Asif will come on board. From the biodiversity colleague, we don't have colleagues attending today because there's already an event going on in Nairobi, the technical meetings, but I have one slide which makes the connection between land, climate, and biodiversity processes as well. So the LGMA constituency is the voice of towns, cities, regions in the UN climate negotiations since '95. We try to influence the agenda items. We contribute to the action agenda since Paris Agreement. We collaborate with the presidencies, and we advance our collaboration with the Friends of Multi-Level Action, which are the national governments who support our work. Because in the UN process, especially in the climate negotiations, the final decisions are always put on the table by the parties, the national governments, mainly represented by Minister of Environment or Climate. So we have to work with them so that they can integrate our inputs. But of course, we share our views throughout the year. So we have our regular webinars every month. We also release our bulletin, and we recommend you to subscribe so that you can keep yourself updated directly in your mailbox. We also have informal additional channels on WhatsApp for the LGMA constituency and shared folders, but this is particularly for our core members. We know these webinars are announced globally, so we can expect there may be some other guests of LGMA attending us here today. We have mentioned COP28 is a milestone, and in fact, it was a journey since 1992. It was the close of a new era and the opening of another era. We remember that the first couple of years was a bit challenging. We were recognized as a constituency, but in the negotiations of the convention and the Kyoto Protocol, there was not a room for us. So that was our challenge. In the late 2000s, we started our mobilization, especially we were expecting a Copenhagen deal, and there we want to make sure that this mistake is not repeated again, so that we are engaged, recognized, engaged, and empowered. Copenhagen did not deliver its main expectations. Meanwhile, we have already mobilized new networks joining us, new initiatives from Europe, US, and all around the world were coming up. But after the Copenhagen, we even intensified because local governments believe in multilateralism. So for this 7 years onwards, towards 6 years, we were really very active in the negotiations for action agenda. We developed together with the presidencies. We had developed our own initiatives. We particularly participated in the UN Secretary General's initiatives like Compact of Mayors. And all these efforts produced its result that in the Paris Agreement, we had been recognized. Our importance of all levels of governments is recognized in the Paris Agreement preamble, and that gave us a huge momentum. So you can see there's a plethora of initiatives in the Champions, Marrakesh Partnership, Talanoa dialogues, the breakthroughs and Sturge, Sharm el-Sheikh adaptation agenda, pavilions at all the COPs. And then finally, we have reached to CHAMP. So we had two major achievements during this year. In the Glasgow Climate Pact, we have another preamble that says we recognize the urgent need for multi-level. And our ultimate success is COP28. We are in the preamble, not only preamble, but we are in the operative paragraph 161 with urging for parties for multi-level action. Plus, we have a fantastic initiative, CHAMP, which we'll discuss later. So we are in the both decisions, initiatives, and there's a COP Troika, which is making our lives much easier because there's a connection between Emirates, Azerbaijan, and Brazil with the champions, with the presidency teams. So that is what has come out from Dubai will not just be forgotten. We will be even more ambitious to incorporate. Once again, we are recognizing Dubai as the most ambitious, the most inclusive, and the most multi-level perspectives. We had references for transitioning from fossil fuels and numerous commitments on energy and land. We are inclusive with the new topics like culture, food, health, nature. They are all embedded in the process. And we have a minimum 15 paragraph in Emirates consensus, starting from the 161, urging parties for multi-level action, but on the global adaptation, loss and damage. So these are the points that gives us a fantastic way forward towards 2025, where we would expect to have new national climate plans with multi-level collaboration. This is a journey. The annual journey is now taken up by the presidency of COP29 by Azerbaijan. They have already started engaging with us since the beginning of the year. They are one of the really early comers. And in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, there have been numerous meetings so that there is a continuity between the two presidencies. And in June, in Bonn, there will be more joint efforts. And from June onwards, the Azerbaijan presidency will become more active as expected. But the Troika of COPs will also continue to work. Throughout this process, we are active on three axes. Our own initiatives, LGMA initiatives. We have our own summits, workshops, and events like we have seen in Belém. We will see in London, New York. But we have also our own events like Innovate for Cities or Daring Cities. Then we have the UNFCCC agenda. This is the blue. We are participating UN and UNFCCC. So UN Environment Assembly, World Urban Forum, the three COPs, and of course, Copenhagen and Petersburg ministerial meetings. Then we have the global processes that are not necessarily bounded by the UN mechanisms, but the outcome from these meetings help us to feed further. These are the Global Buildings Forum this year, which was remarkable and inaugural. We have G7 processes, G20 processes, and that we will continue to shape, contribute to these processes so that all these feed into the results. And obviously, meanwhile, half of the world will be on the ballot box this year. A number of countries have already completed their work, and now we will see in June European elections, Mexican elections, South Africa, India, and in November we will have the U.S. elections. Since April 20th of April was our last, the 20th of April was our last webinar, as far as I remember. Were three main things that made our agenda very active. So the Petersburg Climate Dialogue was is a traditional engagement for the last 15 years. For the first time in the history of Petersburg Climate Dialogue, we have a subnational government intervening at the plenary. California Governor Gavin Newsom was addressing live, around 50 ministers in the room. That was very, very positive for us. And as the LGMA representative, every event we are aligned ourselves. That this time I represented as the focal point in this Petersburg Climate Dialogue. I was able to intervene and interact with both COP29 president designate and the COP29 high-level champion, as well as the whole delegation, along with other constituencies and along with other national governments, ministers. So it was a very fruitful opportunity for us. The day after the Petersburg Climate Dialogue, G7 ministers of environment and climate went to Torino, Italy. They had met they have covered a number of topics. They have announced their communique, which is 35 page. It has 3 paragraphs on cities and initiatives that is building on the G20 Italian Legacy 2021, which created a localization in the G20, that they want to make sure there is a linkage. We would have hoped the G7 Subnational Climate Action Roundtable, together with Urban 7, could have been continuing, but it was not possible this year, at least at the Ministerial of Urban Environment. But we know urbanization ministerial will continue in October, so we will still contribute into this process, and our colleagues in Urban 7 will also follow this process further. A very important achievement we had seen was during the UN Habitat Executive Board in early May. The importance was that there is a negotiation agenda item on operationalization of the Surge Initiative legacy from COP27, which was really a building block for our achievements in Dubai. UN Habitat Executive Board was mandated to review options, and Secretariat provided a couple of ideas. They had negotiations with the governments, mainly by the ministers of urbanization who constitute the Executive Board. As the LGMA, together with UCLG, we had submitted an intervention. It was an in-person event, so we provided our input through our colleague colleague Pablo Fernandez was on site, and we have highlighted that the opportunity through Surge, we can make the linkage between the Marrakesh Partnership, the climate solutions, the races, and the Sea Partnership, and the CHAMP, so that we have a multi-level action and an NDC focus process for CHAMP. We have an urbanization focus through Surge, and if we can build appropriate linkages, we can make this functioning in a much more effective way and annually be reported or monitored in the COP ministerials on urban and climate. The decision is impressive. There is now a commitment from UN Habitat that they will create a secretariat. We exactly will contribute to support the secretariat, obviously, but the working groups will start to operate as well, and that the synergies will now be explored. So that will be one of the main things that we can bring to Baku, that there will be this continuity. One of the good things, obviously, this year there's the World Urban Forum, and Baku will also continue to host the World Urban Forum in 2026. So this continuity among the governments, among the presidencies, and between the urban and climate agenda is a really good opportunity for all of us. We are now getting back what was happened in the past and now what we are prepared for in the next couple of days and weeks. Obviously, we have now the daring cities. We have been annually convening this. We are once again in a hybrid year-round engagement, but in-person dialogues are in June. We already have our webinars for the reflection of what we have achieved in the past couple of weeks and months. Two webinars were held. After the Bonn dialogues, we will continue with additional virtual forum. But in Bonn, we will focus on 3, 4, and 5 of June. In particular, 4th of June will be the place where we will be convening our insights for multi-level action at the GIZ auditorium. This will be both plenary sessions, and we are so happy to see both of the COP28 and COP29 champions are for the first time joining in a public event together. This will be even kicking off their engagement in Bonn. So once again, subnationals, LGMA is playing its role to bring the connection to the leaders and our constituency. We are proud to have leaders from around the world, from Niterroy, from Lebanon, as well as partners from national governments like German Minister of Cooperation and Development, as well as GCOM and other colleagues like Under 2 will also be with us. The day will continue with breakout sessions. We will focus on specific, dig into details of just transition, multi-level action, IPCC, as well as land, climate, and nature connection. The day after, on the 5th of June, we will be inside the UNFCCC. We will be particularly contributing to the UNFCCC Marrakesh Partnership event on multi-level action. And that will also be followed up by our additional dialogues with the mitigation program co-chairs and a session on urban loss and damage. In between, on the 4th of June, there will be a special dialogue of champ endorsers, and Asif will focus on that. Before I hand over the word to Asif, I also would like to mention that the UNFCCC Bonn conference is starting from officially 3rd and 13th of June, but this year it's even more intense. The number of dialogues and the number of negotiations are unprecedented, and it comes at a time when the UNFCCC is shrinking its budget, shrinking its capacity. So we really believe there is a need for a review of this process, because so many meetings, how will they manage the outcomes? How will the negotiators will follow it? It's really not easy. But in any case, we will do our best. Obviously, more than 30 dialogues, 50 negotiation items, we cannot contribute all of it. We have highlighted a number of those, like just transition time roundtable, mitigation work program, very, very important, at an annual GST dialogue. But these are all tracking now in our COP26, LGMA COP29 tracking sheet for those in the LGMA constituency. So we recommend all of us to insert your inputs so that you share your delegation. We decide together who will be covering which event throughout these 2 weeks, and that we make sure that the outcomes are most effective. Asif, I have only one slide for you, but now the floor is yours. So we are more than happy to listen to your updates on CHAMP implementation.
Thank you, Yunus, for the opportunity, and thank you to everyone who's online today. So it feels like we launched CHAMP many years ago now, but it's only been about 6 months. But it's been a busy 6 months as we have been really focused on making sure that the initiative is able to stand on its own, and it's on its own 2 feet, and have a really clear roadmap towards COP30 and then beyond as well, hopefully. So in light of that, and in light of the upcoming SBs in Bonn, these past couple of weeks saw a major push from us in terms of updates on what's been happening over the last 6 months and how the initiative has been taking shape. So a few things to update all of you. The first thing is a letter from the high-level champions. So both the COP28 and COP29 high-level champions, Her Excellency Razan Al Mubarak and Nigar Bardarai, was distributed to all champ endorsing parties. And this letter really just congratulated endorsers on their on their recognition of multi-level action through their champ endorsements, and provided them a few, um, let's say, guiding principles which they should be considering over the process of their engagement within the COP29 and COP30 processes over the next couple of years, and how to integrate their champ commitments within that space. It also highlighted the kind of engagements planned at the SBs. And so really provided a holistic update to all endorsers, which I know that a lot of people have been asking for. So it was timely. Accompanying the letter from the high-level champions, we also shared an information pack, which reiterated, of course, what the pledge, the background of the pledge and the launch at COP28, but also included new information and new content to fill in the blanks, so to speak, in terms of what CHAMP is and how endorsers can really take action on the commitments that they've taken. And so we've provided somewhat of a blueprint of what those actions could look like mapped against the 6 CHAMP commitments. We've provided in this information pack examples, concrete examples from CHAMP endorsing countries of initiatives, processes, where the spirit of the CHAMP commitments is already being implemented, where robust consultation processes exist, where collaborative planning processes exist, where strong multi-level financial structures exist to support the delivery of climate action within cities, states, and regions. So that, I think, really helps illustrate what the CHAMP challenge and ask is for national governments, right? Demonstrating that it's not about starting from scratch. It's about building on existing good practices and recognizing that in most cases, governments that have endorsed CHAMP have done so because they already have a recognition of the value of this mode of working within their institutional arrangements around climate, but more broadly as well. So that was really critical. And then a bit of a deep dive on the analysis of urban content of NDCs, from which, of course, our colleagues from UN Habitat have been spearheading, and then ending with a bit of a timeline on how CHAMP engagement is expected to proceed over the next 18 months, but specifically within this next 6-month stretch on the road to COP29. And so, like Eunice said and presented in the previous slide, there will be two events focusing specifically on CHAMP. The first will be a closed-door roundtable on the 4th of June, which will be open to all CHAMP endorsers, and of course partners who are supporting CHAMP's delivery. This roundtable will be taking place from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. in the GIZ auditorium space on the 4th of June, and then it will be followed immediately by the full day program of on multi-level action within daring cities. And then on the 5th of June, we're, as part of the official Global Climate Action Program of the High-Level Champions, there will be a dialogue, an open dialogue on multi-level partnerships for enhanced NDCs within the main SB's venue, open to all parties, open to observers, and really a landmark kind of engagement. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's the first time within the SB's program that there is this dedicated space to discussing multi-level action and multi-level partnership, and within the context of a mandated process. So it's really a tremendous achievement, and full credit to the LGMA community for its brilliant advocacy over the last many decades that have enabled us to get to this point. So those are the key engagements in the first week of Bonn. I'm aware there are other events as well happening over the first week, and early in the second week as well. So it's really encouraging that the momentum that was initiated all of last year in terms of really mainstreaming multi-level action across the COP agenda has been taken forward into this year's SB sessions as well. And we're hoping to be continuing that at COP29 as well through our engagement with the Azerbaijani presidency. So I'll stop there. Eunice, please add on anything you think I've missed, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Asif, not only for this update, but your hard work since the beginning of this process. And we are so lucky to have you there, being able to respond whenever we ask any updates, or being a reliable colleague and partner in making this momentum alive, and keeping it even brighter in this kind of an initiative. So we look forward to continuing to work with you. And as far as I know, we have also good news that you also will be personally available in Bonn on these couple of days. So that's also a great opportunity for us to continue to work with you. One minor point that I can reflect to, the first time in the UNFCCC Bonn Climate Conference, the session with the title on multi-level action was during the 2019. I think it was the Polish presidency, and before that we had a forum in 2014. Again, it was the Polish presidency. They had different natures, but therefore we are believing that this is complementing, but none of them have been so much as structured like the one we are having with the GCA and with this paragraph 161. So we are very happy that every presidency we are taking it higher. And actually, this is a good reminder for all of us to keep this in our record, so that we can then see how we can make even more stronger outcomes, and that make sure that this is now becoming a regular agenda. Great. I know I have several colleagues on the line here, probably would be asking some more questions to you, but let's proceed, because I know Ula also joined us. So I would like to invite Ula to provide us some basic updates on the progress in drafting our inputs. Let's remember there were two processes on that. One, we had our own working groups. Some of them have advanced a bit, and we had a special group, a drafting committee, who had been assigned to lead our process. And the logic was that this drafting committee would kick off the first concepts. We had mapped the three main highlights, and they have received, they have consulted, or they will continue to consult with the working groups. But I think now this is the first time that Ula will share us some basic updates on the content of where we have achieved and how we'll go forward. Ula, the floor is yours. You can either, if you want to share your screen, or you can use the one that I have here. You are muted.
Okay.
If you can get closer to the mic a bit, or if you have a headset, I think you're a bit remote.
Yeah, I have a headset.
Now it's good, better.
Okay.
Get closer. Get closer a bit.
Yeah. So I'm in the lobby of the laptop. Okay. I'll join.
There's probably too much background noise, which is picking it up instead of Ula's voice.
Ula, shall we give 1 more minute for you to check whether you can be in a better atmosphere there or surrounding there?
Yes, give me a second.
Okay, so let me while we wait for you, let me go back to the let me continue and let's use the time more effectively, because we had 1 more slide. Colleagues, you are aware, Asif, please go ahead. I see your hand.
Yeah, sorry, Yunus, for interrupting. I just realized I didn't mention the toolkit for
Please.
subnational actors. So working with our colleagues in the LGMA constituency, we've also, in addition to the information package and an update that went to all endorsers, a separate publication was developed for cities, towns, states, and regions, so the subnational community, to use within their advocacy around multi-level action and JAM specifically. And so this should have been shared with everyone through Yunus and the LGMA's communication channels. This is really a guide to how public advocacy around JAM can be initiated and sustained in a meaningful way, taking forward the momentum over the last year or two and into the next year or two. So any questions on this, please direct them to Yunus and the LGMA, and they'll be able to provide further context and details.
Asif, that was really nice that you reminded us. What would be probably I can contribute here now is the fact that colleagues, you are aware we are preparing our monthly bulletin, and we are working with the presidency and the Bloomberg and GCOM colleagues, so that in the next bulletin, which will be next, I think it will be Wednesday, 29th, that you will receive. You will have links to these documents and other materials, hopefully, that this will keep you connected. And we have shared the PDF version in the morning message today, but we will continue further, especially we know next week there will be also a webinar from NDC partnership, so that a lot of efforts are doing their best that all these efforts now converge, and we come to Bonn on 3, 4, and 5 of June. We peak it, and then we continue further. I see a hand from Andrew Richmond, and I see Ula back. Let's first check with Ula whether she is now better in a connection style. You are muted, Ula.
Okay, how about now? Is this any better at all?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
So
great.
Just
so
second, Ula,
apologies, everybody.
I would just ask our colleague Andrew Richmond, one of our participants, just to wait until your session is over so that we can then give him the floor. So please go ahead. Ula, please,
yes, so hi everybody, and I'm so sorry, I'm traveling at the moment, so it's a bit hard to make the connection, but so I'm very excited to chat about the joint messages that we've been developing, and I'm hopeful that after this webinar series we can share the link for yourselves, for you all to input into the messages. So I'm not going to share my screen just because I'm afraid that this connection will collapse. But what I would really want to tell you is that this year we are looking at quite a detailed set of position asks. And that is because, last year we had the global stocktake. It was a very generic and broad tent exercise where we could speak at a very high level. But as Yunus mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, at the moment, there are so many dialogues ongoing, and those dialogues are actually going quite deeply into certain specific issues. So in that manner, we also have to respond to that sort of demand from the UNFCCC process to be able to provide that detailed feedback and detailed asks. And as you all know, we are really hopeful that the position we are developing together will be that sort of foundation for our submissions, foundation for our interventions. So that's why it's so important for all of you to contribute, because we really want to capture the broad variety of voices. And so you will get the link, and you will see that we have divided the position into sort of the cover page, which has very basic introduction with a list of calls. And then subsequently, we will get into details. So there, each page will have, oh, thanks very much, Yunus. Each page will be dedicated to one of the issues that Yunus is just displaying in the slide. It will also have a section included that has specific asks for the negotiators, because we found this text to be very handy last year when we were running around at COP28 and asking for inclusion of certain words. Having something pre-drafted was really helpful, because we can then compare it to sort of proposed text and see, okay, we can use those words, that's going to work. So I hope that through that exercise and the joint position, we can be really prepared, not only for this COP, but also for the next COP. So you will see that the framing we are using is really that 10-year anniversary of Paris Agreement, as preparing for the 10-year anniversary. So I would really encourage all of you to contribute once you get the link. You will see that the messages are actually not developed fully yet, but that's because we're really hoping on your input. So you will see some basic ideas being formed and quite a lot of blank spaces, but we are really hoping you can help us to shape this up. And I think the final point I will say that we will send this over prior to SBs, and there's going to be like a critical drafting period throughout the SBs and before the ICLEI World Congress in Brazil. And we are hopeful that by ICLEI World Congress of Brazil, we can present you with the second version that's going to be again open for the wider consultation, but that version will be much more substantial and much more developed, because you would have already had a chance to contribute. So we are really hopeful for your input, and thanks very much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Ula. We also would like to thank you and all the members of the drafting committee to take this forward. And I also want to compliment in the sense that some of the language is already available there, because throughout the year we made submissions. We made submissions to the adaptation, resilience, and framework. We had made submissions to Article 6.8. There was a submission to just transition. So it's not starting from scratch, but actually it's just building all these. That's why the contribution from working groups and other partners are extremely important. And maybe just immediately reflected to the input to one of the contributions in the chat box, which is our dear friend Antoine Faye from Dakar. He is a long-term friend and ally and a dear colleague, and he was in the LGMA with the access to the Dakar climate and resilience plan, and now he is representing or he's part of the LDC, the List of Countries delegation to the UNFCCC on behalf of the Senegal government. I assume so. Antoine, please correct me if I'm wrong. But he has already mentioned in the chat box that, for example, he has not seen too much LGMA presence in the new collective quantified goal on climate finance, which is NCQG. So many abbreviations. Antoine, you're right. It's absolutely right, because that meeting in Colombia, it was at a time when we were all distracted. A couple of us were in Belém, a couple of us were in Washington. So we were really split, and we could simply not manage to be there in person or virtually. We did our best, we failed. Let's be realistic. These are the cases. And that's exactly why we want to make sure that we do not miss other opportunities. For example, there was another meeting in Bhutan. We had a colleague in Thimphu who was already with us, but we couldn't manage it because there was again a capacity issue. So there are so many meetings taking place that we really are not able to follow. One of the biggest weakness we had was the first board meeting of the Loss and Damage Fund in Abu Dhabi. Again, there was no LGMA representative there. Again, this brings us, if you have noticed, one of the last items in this process is how we strengthen the LGMA, both its impact, both its scope and mission. We would like to come up with some ideas on that so that we are much better prepared on the way forward. Once again, as Ula mentioned, we made a huge change of the mindset across the UN negotiations, and especially in the UNFCCC. We're not anymore asking our recognition. Recognition is done. We are now in the phase of engagement and empowering, which is the financial and technical resources. Therefore, we have to take seriously. Now it's not anymore a volunteer work. We really have a duty to respond all these topics that our voices are heard, and we are concrete on what we are proposing or what we're asking for. So that's the reason why we have to be more professional, much more systematic, and much more equipped with information and an experience. So what we are getting there, it's a volunteer work. We're all aware it's a work in progress, but we are getting there for sure. I'm very confident on that. So colleagues who would like to contribute, they can come back. But here's my last slide. You're aware we have been always referring or relating ourselves to the biodiversity negotiations in all these LGMA webinars. In the last 2 years, that has been our practice. But this year is a super year for the Rio Conventions. We have the biodiversity COP in Cali. We have in October, Colombia. We have desertification COP in December in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. In between, there's World Urban Forum. And of course, in between, there's the biodiversity COP, the climate COP in Baku. So over the last couple of days, there have been some more updates. For example, actually today is the International Observance for the Biodiversity Day, 22nd of May, that we are very happy that we can join this celebration. The theme is invited, all the stakeholders are invited to be part of the plan. The plan is the global framework on biodiversity adopted in Kunming and Montreal. We are very happy that through our engagement with the biodiversity process, we have in the testimonials or endorsements some video messages from state governments, from local governments like Bonn, like Naribo, and from our colleagues from China. They have already mobilized. Probably our colleagues Regions 4 and Ikle City Biodiversity Center will be providing more resources there. As of today, our colleagues in Nairobi are joining the discussions, negotiations. So that's one part of the story. The second part is the desertification. In fact, Desertification Day is also this year combining together with the World Environment Day, and the theme is land restoration or restoration generation. So that gives an excellent opportunity for us to talk about climate targets, which is net zero targets, biodiversity targets, nature positive targets, and land neutrality, which means that we minimize your impacts to the expansion of our urbanization, especially in the global south, because we know we need new spaces. There will be new residences, new housing projects. We will do our best that these are as optimized so that we minimize our impact to the spaces that we are capturing. We will avoid urban sprawl, but more importantly, we will make the connection between urban and rural spaces, urban and rural communities, the continuity from forest area, from agricultural area, and the urban landscape inside the cities. We will make sure there is the connection between food and biodiversity reserve spaces, and make sure that there is this mobilization among the people and within the nations and within the borders, especially focusing on migration, which will be expected to increase because of the induced migration through the increased climatic disasters. There will be more need for this discussion about land. Under these conditions, we'd like to make sure that this year we also provide more opportunities for this discussion. And on the World Environment Day, on the 5th of June, which will be the day of our diversities, the closing day, the day where we will have a stage discussion on multi-level action. In Riyadh, there will be the observance of the World Environment Day, and 2 weeks later in Bonn, the World Urban Observance of the Desertification Day will be together with the UN Secretariat, City of Bonn and Germany, and the COP President designate the Saudi Arabia government. So a lot of opportunities coming to our plates. There are a lot of need for making the appropriate synergies, and that's our mandate to now make sure all the decisions are implemented at the most effective way, that once we invest in one budget, because we have only one budget, that we can make sure we deliver results on climate, on biodiversity, on land, on pollution, and on resilience, and all the food. All goals should be met with one investment. Therefore, this is the skill, this is the art that we have to develop. So, dear colleagues, we still have 15 more minutes. The floor is open. I see Eva also providing a feedback, which is nice. Eva, feel free to speak yourself if you wish. I remember we had the colleague Andrew Richmond. Yes, he has raised his hand again. And Antoine, if you want, you can also intervene directly. Maybe you have some more recommendations or updates. That the floor is open to you. So let's hear from Andrew Richmond. If you can introduce yourself institution-wise and then bring your topics on the table, we will be happy. Yeah. Did we lose Andrew?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Younes. Thank you very much. Just took me a moment to join. Great session, as always. Really appreciate it. My name's Andrew Richmond. I'm a policy advisor for climate change and growth at the Local Government Association in England. So we are a membership body for councils in England, and I work on climate change. I have a question for Asif. I was wondering if the EU are still accepting signatories for CHAMP. And a second question, if your nation is not a signatory, how can local government get involved, or can they get involved?
Brilliant question. Before Asif gives the floor response to you, first of all, thanks for joining us, Andrew, from LGMA. LGA has been also partnering with us since Glasgow. And congratulations to all your councils. You have completed your elections. So we look forward to your new leaders. And that was an excellent question. So Asif, feel free to respond as appropriate.
Thanks, Younes, and thank you, Andrew. Nice to meet you. So as to your first question, we're definitely still open for endorsements. It has not closed. We have 72 endorsers, so obviously there is a sizable chunk of countries who have not yet endorsed, and we'd be very open to them doing so. The second part of your question, again, excellent question. This is where the toolkit that I talked about earlier comes in and becomes important because it contains some of those strategies. The toolkit is not just for cities, states, and regions that are in CHAMP endorsing countries. It's for all subnational actors. So how can you engage in public advocacy and diplomacy around CHAMP, even if your country has not formally endorsed? So there's some recommendations there that may be useful to look at.
Thank you
Excellent.
very much, Asif.
And Andrew, just to compliment Asif, let's remember UK is the only G7 country who has not endorsed CHAMP yet. So we look forward to your efforts. There will be probably, hopefully, some opportunities. And maybe let's remember you have the London Climate Week in the middle of or end of June, which could also be a good opportunity. Along this line, we will have Malini Mehra, who is leading the London Climate Action and London Climate Week organization, who is joining us in Bonn at the Daring Cities as well as the UNFCCC. Malini is both a member of the Greater London Assembly, but also the coordinator of the parliamentarians group. And in fact, she is one of those invited speakers at the UNFCCC session on the 5th that Asif mentioned. So we will do our best. And if you have a direct connection to your delegation, we can connect them during the meetings in Bonn, and then we can follow up. So it will be really good to make the G7 completely join the endorse the CHAMP, and that will be a nice progress. So let's work together, and we can follow up further. Thanks for raising this issue.
Thank you, Younes.
Great. Antoine responded in the chat box that he doesn't need to provide further input, so he's okay. That's great, Antoine. Thanks for your support again. I see colleagues from, I remember UN Habitat was on the line. Jessica, yeah, Jessica from UN Habitat is here. Leah is not here. Probably she is dealing with a number of topics. But Jessica, if you wish, you can come in at any time, or any other colleagues. But we can also keep it short. We still have 10 more minutes to go. maybe while getting towards the end of this session, I will keep the agenda page open for the daring cities and the SPs. So once again, daring cities will focus on the first 3 days. 3rd of June, Monday, will be relatively smooth. We will have only an intervention at the opening and we will join the reception. 4th of June will be very busy for us. As Asif mentioned, we will start with a champ endorsers roundtable. There is also a room for LGMA participants to be in the room. But let's remember, this is for the national government. So please inform us about who is attending, who is in person, so that we can then coordinate the LGMA inputs into this meeting. So there is space, we can integrate, but obviously we have to manage the time and the size of our delegation. Then at 11 a.m. we will continue with this, the insights for multi-level action at the GIZ. This is a public event. This is not needing any UNSCC accreditation. It will also be webcasted. But for those in person, we recommend you to register. Please, we'll share the link once again with you. This is a session that starts with plenary with high-level champions, the local leaders and their partners. But it will be after the lunchtime. We'll continue with the breakout groups. On the 5th of June, we will have an LGMA data briefing inside the UNFCCC, very likely. At 1 p.m., we will attend the Marrakesh Partnership, particularly the dedicated session on multi-level action. We have our leaders intervening, we have our experts participating. But be aware, the Marrakesh Partnership sessions are continuing throughout the week, 4, 5, 6, 7, and each of them, we hope to have a subnational or local leader intervening as well. So we are working with the secretariat on that. At 3:30, we will have a dialogue with the mitigation work program co-chairs. This is a great opportunity because official interaction is taking the week before. So there will be some limitations. We have only the Climate Heritage Network colleagues as the LGMA representative and Marake and Global ABC colleagues are there. But it's an opportunity for other colleagues who may not be able to join us in the meeting, then directly talk to the co-chairs. We had a webinar with them 2 weeks ago. So this will be an informal meeting. The co-chairs will take this dialogue into their own report. And then we will continue on urban loss and damage hosted by the United Nations University of Environment and Human Settlements, ICLE and GIZ. It includes a dialogue and a reception at the end. The dialogue will also be webcasted. And in order to access to the UN campus, those in Bonn, feel free to register yourself. The second slide is once again, the UNFCCC sessions are going on, not anymore 2 weeks, it's even 3 weeks. It starts with this agenda on mitigation work program. On the Sunday, we have just transition. Then we have tracked out of this 30 plus dialogues, around 8 to 10 of them are most relevant, and we even are suggesting speakers. There are side events like ICLE side event on the 8th of June. We have another initiative, but we don't have time. There will be cities and subnationals also presenting there. We have another initiative of the Global Innovation Hub. So there are numerous, and the things that you don't see is the contact groups, the places where we really participate and see the negotiation text. The dialogues are open. There are reports from the dialogues, and the reports will feed into the negotiations. While we're going to the dialogues, the negotiators are going to the informal or contact groups, and that is the challenge, how we will be able to intervene both of them. And it's not a challenge only for LGMA, the whole UNFCCC community is under huge pressure and stress, which means that, yes, the ambition is going higher, but the resources coming to the mechanisms of this process, including UNFCCC staff, including the LGMA partners staff, we should increase resources to make this success, to want to deliver really the results. I am about to conclude, but I see one more.
There's Jessica has her hand raised.
Good. And Eva is asking the link for the LGMA drafting committee. Ula, I think we will share this. Do you want to share it now? I don't want to recommend because there may be others on the line. So let's make sure we keep us informed in the mailings. And if those who are not in the mailing list that you are not receiving, please inform us. We can check whether you are eligible to be in the mailing list of LGMA. And then we can share with you. But Eva, of course, you're a default partner, so don't worry, you will get the link. So yeah, Jessica, the floor is yours. I see that you're already online with your video camera. Great.
Thank you so much, Eunice, and thank you again for these amazing webinars. It's super, super helpful leading up to these big moments like the SBs. So I wanted to give a quick update on the NDC's campaign. So if you missed my previous update, very, very quickly, what it is a few organizations coming together to work on a joint campaign to increase the urban focus of NDCs. So as you know, NDCs have been revised, so we don't have much time to do this. So we're currently in the planning stages with a few organizations, and it is going to be built on research. And you've already mentioned one of the big reports, Eunice, and also Asif mentioned it as well around the NDC work that we're doing. There's a huge report coming out at the SBs. And if you flick over to the other slide, Eunice, detailing all the events at the SBs, on the 8th of June, we'll be deep diving into this report alongside our colleagues at SDU and also with ICLE as well. So that is an event not to be missed if you're still around on Saturday. Thank you so much for the opportunity to explain this to everybody. If anyone's had any questions, I'm an open door, myself and Leah as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jessica. This is really helpful. Just complementing what you have provided, Leah and Serin, and I think maybe a couple of more from UNAVITA colleagues will be in those days, both in the Daring City events, but also in the UNFCCC events on the 4th and 5th. As you said, our side event will be an opportunity to dive deeper.
Exactly.
The bad news is that this year UNFCCC has the restrictions, so there is no webcast from this side event, so only it will be available. But the report will already be released on the 5th of June, or no, on the 5th of June, isn't it so? So the communications will follow soon along these lines, and there will be more opportunities, and I think we can make sure that is included in the next webinars and all the others, so that we can use maximum channels. And yes, your campaign, the idea is excellent. I'm aware our colleagues in the communications group of the LGMA are also helping you or shaping it together with you. This is exactly the type of tools that we have to increase, enrich ourselves, and we work further. That's great. Any more? Eva is confirming that she will stay tuned for the link so that she doesn't miss the deadline. That's great. Okay, Ula has already left, so we will share with you the link soon, Eva, don't worry. And I think we have covered today our agenda. We have 2 minutes left. Let's see if there's any last round, any updates or any feedbacks. I don't see any yet, which means that we can save our last couple of seconds for ourselves until your next agenda item. Thanks a lot for your active participation. Thanks to whole LGMA constituency for your dedication for success, and thanks to Asif for really be a close support and friend and ally for us. A really exciting couple of days ahead and weeks ahead. So let's make sure what we have come up from Dubai is becoming a reality, which is really giving our hope that we are on the right track, and we will make sure that our communities will also benefit from all our achievements. So take good care of yourselves until our next encounter. Bye-bye.